before the full messages were released. Colorado Democrat Senator Michael Bennet. And thank you, Senator, for being here. Now that you can read the full messages, because the Atlantic published them today after everyone and their mom was saying they weren't classified in the administration, how does that line up with what you heard from the testimony yesterday?
The testimony yesterday was false. They said there was no classified information. I've been hearing this hair splitting all day long. I'm on the Intelligence Committee, as you know. If this stuff is classified, isn't classified, I don't know what is classified. I mean, I hate to say it, the Intelligence Committee is, some people think that would be a really cool place to work and to be a committee member. We rarely hear anything as secret as the stuff that these guys were talking about, as classified as what they were talking about. And and I know every single one of them understands that about this too, which is what makes it so agonizing.
So you believe they lied?
I think they're just lying. Yeah. And they think, in a time of the big lie, they believe that if they attack the reporter who surfaced it, who wasn't, whose fault. I mean, Jeff Goldberg had nothing to do with the fact that somebody brought him onto the signal thread that he was on. Then they attack him. They attack the press, and they claim, they hair split all day about whether it was classified or not. I can assure you, everybody in Colorado would be shocked after reading that, not to think that these war plans should be classified. And
so what happens now if that is the situation? If you believe that they were lying to you, given those were two members who were on this message thread and talking about what they did not recall in it, and then obviously everything was published today, what is the next step there?
I think you know what's going to happen. They're just going to stonewall and stonewall and stonewall. That's how Donald Trump approaches questions like this. And it's going to be up to the media to do the muckraking that's required. It's going to be up to Congress to provide the oversight that's required. It would be shocking to me if Donald Trump held any of these people accountable for their failures. And their failures are substantial. Their failures are significant for the men and women in our armed forces, for the men and women in our intelligence agencies, our allies across the globe who already are having a hard enough time deciding whether or not to trust us. And now we have a circumstance like this. And when they're found out through their own stupidity and idiocy, instead of just owning up to it and saying it was a mistake, they've doubled down and said there's nothing to see here.
What do you make of how your Republican colleagues are handling this? We did hear from Roger Wicker today, the first member of his party, saying that he would like to see an investigation here. Do you think that they have the same concerns that you do?
I do, and I think you're beginning to hear them say that publicly.
And so what does that look like? What would you like to see Roger Wicker and others, Tom Cotton, who is the chair of your committee, what steps would they take?
I'd love to see the Intelligence Committee. Tom Cotton has been doing a very good job as the chairman of that committee. We don't agree on a lot of things, but I'd love to see our committee provide oversight here. The Armed Services Committee as well. I mean, it would be much better for us to have a bipartisan approach if we can.
Your colleague Mark Kelly said he believes that Secretary Hegseth should be fired.
I think he should be fired. I absolutely think he should be
Secretary Hegseth or Michael Waltz, who added the
Well, I mean, Secretary Hegseth for sure, who clearly is the source of the classified or the targeting information that he put in this chat, and who, by the way, seems to think he did nothing wrong. He's also out there bashing the press rather than taking responsibility for the carelessness with which he's treated the most important secrets that America has. This is not a close call. It's ridiculous what these folks are trying to claim as, not being confidential, not being classified, not being secret. Even if it were true, the judgment that would be required to have a reporter join, to then put information like this out on unclassified.
But can I ask you,
it's
because
just ridiculous.
The pushback to calls for firings that I've heard from the White House and from Republicans is, well, when the Afghanistan pullout happened, and obviously service members lost their lives during the pullout from that airport, they said no one in the Biden administration was fired, not the National Security Advisor, not the Defense Secretary. What would you say to that?
What I would say is that all these cases need to be looked at. We need to hold people accountable for their failures in leadership, no matter what administration is. This is an intentional failure of treating confidential information like.
What did you make of what the VA secretary said there? I mean, he's a veteran himself, which is why I was genuinely curious what he would think a fighter pilot would see in this situation of that information being relayed.
Well,
I mean, he tried to turn it into a question about CNN and not answer.
And he's turning that into the big lie as well. And this is the world we live in right now, and it matters where people draw these lines. It matters whether we are able to uphold the expectations that we have for our own intelligence officers and the requirements they have to safeguard the country's secrets. And when they see something like this, it creates huge concern. I will also tell you on the VA secretary, there are deep concerns in Colorado about the way the administration is approaching these cuts on federal employees. Most of the people in my state, I think, would say that all government should be reformed. They actually want to see government reformed. But the way Elon Musk is approaching it, the across-the-board cuts that the administration is pursuing, not just at the VA, but the Forest Service and other things, I think is creating even more profound mistrust. And when you look at what they've done with the intel stuff over the last few days, that's a really toxic combination.
Yeah, he said Elon Musk hasn't been at the Veterans Affairs Department, which I thought was interesting. Senator Michael Bennet, great to have you as always. Thanks for joining us tonight. Very busy day, I know, on Capitol Hill.